A very good morning, students. We have completed our first unit as syllabus. Now it's revision time. So today we are going to revise our lesson number 1, that is the living world adaptations and classification. Question number 1, find my match. We have to match the correct pair. So the first one is lotus. Lotus grows in water. So the correct answer is, it is for adapted to live in water. Lotus adapted to live in water. Now second, aloe. What is aloe, students? It is a plant which is adapted to live in desert region. So the correct answer is aloe, that is adapted to live in deserts. The third one is cuscuta. What is cuscuta, students? They are hostarial roots for absorption of food. So the correct match is third, B, that is cuscuta, hostarial roots for absorption of food. Next one, Venus flytrap. It's a carnivorous plant, that is flower and leaves attract insects. The correct match is fourth, A. Venus flytrap, flower and leaves attract insects. Next question, answer the following. Why is the camel called the ship of the desert? Why it is called the ship of the desert, students? So the answer is, the skin of camel is thick. The legs are long with cushioned soles. There is a fold of skin for protection of nostrils. The eyelashes are long and thick, and thus they protect their eyes. Fat is stored in the hump, due to which it can survive for a long time without water. Due to all such adaptation, camel becomes most suitable to walk in the desert. Thus it is used as a means of transport. Hence it is called as the ship of the desert. So students, camel is an animal which is adapted for surviving in desert region. The skin of camel is thick, which prevents water loss from the body. The legs are long and they have cushioned soles by which they can walk easily on sand. There is a fold of skin for protection of nostril. Due to this skin fold, it protects the nose to enter the sand. That's why the eyelashes are long and thick, and thus they protect their eyes also, so that sand doesn't get in their eyes. Fat is stored in the hump, due to which it can survive for a long time without water. Due to all such adaptation, camels become most suitable to walk in the desert. Hence it is used as a means of transport. Hence it is called as the ship of the desert. So because of all these adaptations, camel is said to be the ship of the desert. Next question, how can the plants like cactus and acacia live in deserts with scarce water? Scarce means, students, with very little water. How do the plants like cactus and acacia survive? So the answer is, cactus and acacia plants withstand hot and dry environment of the desert with the help of various modifications. They have adapted their body, they have modified their body in such conditions that they can survive in hot and dry environment and also with scarce water. So the first one is, they have thick cuticle on their leaf surface and their stomata are arranged in deep pits to minimize water loss by transpiration. So students, cuticle is a waxy layer which is present on the leaf. So because of this thick cuticle surface on the leaf, the stomata is responsible for water loss from the plant during transpiration. So these stomata are placed deep inside the pits so that they can minimize water loss at the time of transpiration. So, the first modification is they have thick cuticle on their leaf surface and their stomata are arranged in deep pits to minimize water loss by transpiration. Second one, they have special photosynthetic pathway in which stomata remains closed during daytime. So, students, their body has modified in such a manner that they perform special photosynthetic pathway in which stomata remains closed during daytime. So, when stomata is closed, there would be no water loss from their body. So, they can survive in little water also. Third, their leaves are reduced to spines to minimize water loss and photosynthetic functions are performed by flattened stems. Their leaves are reduced to spines. Have you ever seen a cactus plant? The green part which we can see is the stem of that plant, and the small thorns which are there, they are that plant's leaves. So, their leaves are reduced to spines, that is like thorns. Spines means like thorns, to minimize water loss, and photosynthetic functions are performed by flattened stems. So, in such a manner, cactus and acacia like plants live in deserts with scarce water. Next question, read each of the following statement, and while reading the statement, we have to write a paragraph on that. So, the first one is write a paragraph about adaptations with reference to each statement. So, students, first of all, in this question, we have to define what is adaptation. Then, we can take any 2 or 3 examples of various adaptations and we have to define them in 2 to 3 sentences. So, the answer begins here. Adaptation, what is adaptation? Gradual changes occur in the body parts and also in the behavior of organisms which help them to adjust to their surroundings. Such changes are called adaptations. So, the changes that occur in the body parts and also in the behavior of organism that helps them to survive in the environmental conditions, such changes are called adaptations. Next one, adaptation in aquatic plants. The surfaces of leaves and stems of many aquatic plants are covered with a waxy layer. Air spaces in stems and petioles of aquatic plants are useful for floating in water. So, students, the surface of leaves and stems of aquatic plants are covered with a waxy layer that helps the plant to float on the water. The leaves are floating on the water and also air spaces in the stems and petioles of aquatic plants are useful for floating in water. And the example of aquatic plant is lotus. What is aquatic, students? Plants that grows in water are said to be aquatic. So, the first adaptation that we have described is adaptation in aquatic plants. Second one, adaptation in desert plants. Now, for this also we have to write 2 to 3 sentences. Desert plants are either leafless or their leaves are like small needles or have been modified into thorns. As a result, they lose very little water by evaporation. The stem stores water and food and is therefore fleshy. Example, cactus. So, how desert plants have adapted themselves to live in very little amount of water? They have minimizes their leaves into small needles which helps them to prevent water loss from the body. And also the stem stores water and food and therefore it's fleshy. And the example is cactus. Now next, adaptation in animals. Now you can define any 2 to 3 adaptations in animals. So the first one described here is adaptation in desert animals. Now we have seen adaptation in desert plants, how the plant body is modified to prevent water loss from the body or to survive in the scarce condition. So how animals have adapted themselves to survive in desert region? Adaptation in desert animals. Deserts are characterized by severe scarcity of water. Hence, desert animals have a thick skin to prevent loss of water from the body. First of all, students, what does scarcity means? Scarcity means very less water, very little amount of water. So, desert region have very little amount of water. So, animals which survive there have thick skin. Why they have thick skin? So that the water loss from their body is less. And the example of adaptation in desert animal, the best example of desert animal is camel, which is also known as the ship of the desert. Moving to the next adaptation in animals is adaptation in animals of snowy region. So how desert animals have modified their body to prevent water loss? So how adaptations in animals of snowy regions, how they have adapted their body? Let's see. So a white or silver body color, long thick hair on the skin are typical characteristics of animals of snowy region. The long thick hair on the skin helps them to protect themselves from cold. Students, the animals which survive in snowy regions are withstanding the cold. So, they have to protect themselves from the cold. So, what they do? They have adapted their body in such a manner that they have long thick hair on the skin which helps them to protect from the cold. An example of snowy region animal is yak. Now, we have completed this answer. Our next sentence is we hide. On this sentence, we have to write down a paragraph. So, what will be our answer? Who hides, students? There are certain species which are able to hide themselves by blending their color with that of the surroundings. This adaptive mechanism is termed as camouflage and is a method to protect oneself from the predators and prey. For example, grasshopper, lizards, butterflies, chameleon, frogs, etc. What are they saying, students? Why animals hide? Hide means, do they really hide? They don't hide, but they have a special adaptive mechanism known as camouflage. Wherever they stand, they can take the color of that object. If a grasshopper or if a chameleon is on a tree, that particular color he will adapt in their body so that they are not recognized from their prey. Prey means the animals which are going to eat them, the bigger animals which are going to eat them. So, actually they don't hide themselves, but they have a special adaptive mechanism known as camouflage. And camouflage means to blend or mix with the color of the particular surrounding on which they are actually sitting. And the examples of such types of insects are grasshopper, lizards, butterflies, chameleon, and also there is an amphibian, frog, which have a special adaptive mechanism known as camouflage. So students, this was the revision of lesson number 1, that is the living world adaptations and classification. Watch the video attentively to clear all the doubts. This will help you to solve the first unit test question paper, and also refer and write the notes in your notebook for your practice. Write the revision also. It would be a practice for you all. Thank you so much, students. Goodbye. Have a nice day.